So greetings, comrade, once again. You're welcome to this class. This is a consciousness study class. We do our meeting every Thursday and every Saturday, and now we have a new class every Tuesday. So every Thursday, basically what we do is that we study the philosophy and the ideology of Kwame Nkrumah through the book Consciousness. And this is the book on the screen currently. We do the reading, then we share our thinking, then we put it in context to what's going on in Africa. So this book was meant for decolonizing Africa, and probably with three main objectives. One was to actually attain total liberation from neocolonial bondages, which Kwame Nkrumah explained further in his book Neocolonialism, the last stages of imperialism. Second purpose is to unite the continent into one continental government, and this Kwame Nkrumah has also explained it extensively in his book, Africa Must Unite. Thirdly is to develop Africa socially. It's called the social scientific development of Africa. When Nkrumah advocates for socialism or socialist development of Africa. And those are the key three main objectives of this book and of this philosophy and ideology. And then on Saturday, we have a general class for that unification, because the second agenda is the unity of Africa. So we have a Saturday class, 1900 UK time, which is 1800 GMT as per now, where we do actually have conversations, presentations, and discussions with the aim of attaining the unification of Africa continent wholly or holistically. I have been doing some research, and we have now a research group for the CSG that is trying to gather some data and some statistics that can help us push for that purpose of unification of Africa. For example, I've done a research in the military aspect, and we have realized that if Africa could unite its military forces, it can be the greatest and the most powerful military forces across the continent. Instead of Kenya having the military, Uganda the military, if that can be brought together, it can be the most effective and powerful military. So we do have that class. We also do book presentations and book reviews that are in line with our unification agenda. Remember, our scope is both economically, socially, politically, and culturally, because all those are spheres of neocolonialism and the white supremacy systems that we are trying to create. So every Saturday, 1900 UK time, we have a conversation, a general conversation. We can have a presentation or we can have a general conversation with the aim for Africa unification. Now we introduce a class on Tuesday, which I am the teacher and of course, let me say facilitator, where we took a step as a class to go practical to actually implement the unification of Africa in terms of language. Because Ngozi Ojongo says that language is a carrier of culture. Like we're doing the communication today in this class, I'm communicating in a white man language instead of our African language. So CSG has taken a serious step to actually have a class to teach for free Africans across the globe. Our class members and those interested, Kiswahili is a language. And I have been doing that every Tuesday, the same time, 1900 UK time, for 1 hour. So we are in the second or third lesson. It's something that started recently. So these are part of the objectives and agenda we have as a class. Now, all our recordings are always found on our YouTube channel. So we have a YouTube channel, Consciousness Study Class or Study Group. You can log in there anytime and actually get any of our classes, either current classes or the previous classes. Soon, we are planning to go live so that if you have any challenges to join us via Zoom, you can turn to our YouTube account and get us live so that you can catch up with our classes. So all these are initiatives we are trying to do to ensure that we actually reach out to our people and reach out to them in the best way possible. So without much ado, I think that's enough and a good introduction for our class. So we are actually on page 18 of the reading the book Consciousness. We started from the introduction side of it, where Nkrumah introduced us to three categories of students. They call them colonial students, but in another way, they can even mean the three categories of Pan-Africans, of the three categories of politicians or three categories of Africans. And he deliberately categorized them into three categories, as he said. One is the liberal students. Two, the second category is the conservatives. And the third category is the progressives. Nkrumah refers himself as being one of the progressive students. And therefore, we actually, in this class, intend to produce progressive Africans and Pan-Africans. The differences are very clear. The liberal Pan-Africans are more of those who are hiding themselves in the class issue. They only think about themselves, their families, and we see them all around. We have Africans today who, even if they get opportunity, they will only call their mother, their father, like you see in Zimbabwe, where the president has decided to appoint his son, appoint his nephew or uncle. Those are part of the liberal Pan-Africans. We also have the same conservatives who also think the same way. They also think liberals are too much of themselves. Conservatives are almost like within their class, their families, their relatives. That's what they think about. Well, progressives are people who think about the general population, about the people, the benefit of the people. And you can see in all Africa, most of our politicians are not progressive. They're more either liberals or conservatives. But we need to bring people and politicians and leaders who think about the general population. And that is what actually we are having as a missing mark in this continent, and that's what this class intends to produce. People who think beyond themselves. So I think that's very clear. That's the category of Nkrumah told us. So I think you can see it, even in your family, even your friends. People, if they get opportunity, they only think of their mother, their father, their brother, and the rest. Of course, they stay family first, but people go out to serve the population or the citizens. They don't have to think of family first. They must think of people first. Nations first, not myself and my family first. So we intend actually to produce people or citizens or Africans who have paradigm shift from being liberals, from being conservatives to being radicals or progressives. And this philosophy and ideology is progressive philosophy and ideology, targeting progressive and targeting to bring up progressive people. So from there, then Nkrumah introduced us to philosophy in retrospect. He starts this philosophy. This book is a philosophical book, but it goes in retrospects. It means it goes back to see from the beginning. And what he asks, how did the universe come to be? How did we find ourselves in this universe? Or how did this universe form, set up? How did it came to be? So he asked two main philosophical questions, which is what there is. To mean, what is the universe made of? What is the cosmic raw material of the universe? What is it made of? Then once you are able to answer this, it takes us to the next aspect, where he questions the second part. What there is. So once we are able to understand what the universe is made of, we will now go to ask the question, how did that which the universe is made of come to be? What there is. So these have been the two main philosophical questions we've been handling in this chapter 1, in philosophy in retrospect. And it brings now us to where we are today. But there are two answers. One answer is idealist, people who think that the universe came to be, or the universe is made up of ideas and spirits. They are called the idealists. And Nkrumah gives an example with those he called Berkeley, who believes that the universe is made up of spirits, as an example. And he calls them the idealists, or those who believe in ideas, or those who believe in spirits. For example, people who believe that, of course, that God created the universe. We are here, God created the universe, God is in control of the universe, and everything is about God. If God accepts that this person will be the president, so be it. If God says that you'll be poor, so be it. You must have to accept that. If God says anything else, if God says that our resources in Africa has been stolen, yes, it's God who said that. If you want our resources to be retained in Africa, let's kneel down, let's kneel, pray God so that our resources stop being stolen. If you want change in our governments, in our life, and if you want services, let's kneel and pray so that changes can come. There are those people who believe in such types of thinkings. And Nkrumah defines them, as I've said, idealist. So they believe that the universe is made up of ideas. The materialists who believe that the universe is made up of matter. And as per the definition of matter, matter is anything that occupies space. So even if the space occupies space here, the universe is made up of those matters. And there are those dialectical moments, as we've been saying later. Matter are, of course, things that believe in natural existence of so many other things. So the universe is made up of matter. And those are the people who Nkrumah refer them as materialists. Not that they love material being or material wealth. They believe in matter, the materialist. They believe in matter. As the same way idealists believe in ideas. So when we get the word materialist, it doesn't mean that they believe in material gain or material wealth. They believe that the universe is made up of matter. And Brother Kopo will be giving us some explanation, as he says, the kinetic forces, the movement of different forces in the continent or anything else in the motion and everything else. So we believe, these materialists believe that there's movement of motions and commotions of things moving all around the universe. And that these things in their movement, there's nobody in control of them. They are responsible of their movement from one point to another point. So for example, in Africa, every happening in the continent is actually natural or in the process of movement up and down. And we have the control of everything that takes place within the continent. I know that there are some ideas or some spirits outside that actually control this. So Nkrumah brings these two second categories and define them as those who believe in spirits as a cosmic raw material, or those who believe in matter as a cosmic raw materials. You call them water, tails and buckles position. Then Nkrumah takes us further to principle of sufficient reasoning, that everything must have sufficient explanation for anything that happens. You must attain sufficient reasoning and explanation. Then you move further from there to whether the universe is finite or infinite, whether the universe has an end or does not have an end. And if it has an end, does it mean it has a start? If it doesn't have an end, it means that it doesn't have a start. And Nkrumah says whatever we choose to believe in is individual choice to believe in this. But I don't think if you came up clearly to say one position being the most important position, that the universe does not have an end or have an end. So that was the finite and infinite discussion we had. Then you move to outside-inside conversation. Whether the universe has an inside or an outside, or if the universe is naturally, those who believe in matter, they don't believe that there's an outside of the universe. Those who believe in ideas tend to believe that the universe has an outside, that there's an universe outside there, there's somewhere outside there where either both stays apart from where we are and they control us from outside. So that was the outside-inside conversation that we had. And now we've been moving to this aspect that now we are back again to the same question, where it's clearly stated here what the universe is made up of. And this is the answer to the question, what there is. Back to the question, can be said to be idealist or materialist? And I think we have defined this further as we started on and on. And now we are coming to the aspect of rationalism and empiricism. And that is where our class and our conversation takes us to this class of today. And therefore, without wasting my time, I think I've tried my best to give a recap of where we've come from. And in case anybody, either Brother Coco's on transit, Sister Ida, Sister Naira, in case there's anything you feel that I haven't touched in the recap, you can easily come in and maybe add on. Or if in case you have any question in regards to that recap, before we now move to the class reading for today. Any concern, any point to be raised, any question?
No, I think you're very impressive that you managed to tell us so much. It was very impressive. I wish that we could have heard a bit clearer, but it was very, very good. Thank you. I leave it to the rest to ask you any questions. Oh, I see Brother Mensa is unmuted. Brother Mensa, you were muted. Oh no, it's muted. Oh, shame.
Brother
We were
Mensa,
hoping you'd say something to us.
Brother Mensa, I've received your message. You're asking whether we are discussing empiricism and rationalism. Yes, that's what you're discussing. I've just given up a history of where we've come from. You see, we are not discussing these things as separate topics. They are part of a reading. So we must come from this reading to the next paragraph. So the paragraph we're in is basically now discussing about empiricism and rationalism. And as you can see in the screen, that's where we have to do our reading today. So we don't just pick a topic. Topics come out of our readings. And that's what you need to know. If that's clear with you. Sister Myra, do you have anything to say?
No, I think I've covered everything from the beginning.
Okay. So thank you very much. So, Sister Ida.
Yeah.
Can you be able to read for us the reading for today? I think it starts from the second paragraph. We say rationalism and empiricism also vary. That's why we should.
Okay. Yeah, let me try. Second, where do you say it starts? Rationalism. Rationalism and imperialism. The second paragraph, is it?
Yes, that's where we should be starting.
Okay. I see Brother Coco has sent you a message in the chat, but I'll start the reading. Okay. Rationalism and imperialism also vary over the avenues of knowledge. According to the former, a set of procedures or tasks can constitute a method of obtaining knowledge only if, provided the tasks have been correctly performed, the desired knowledge must infallibly be obtained. Here, a fruitful comparison can be made with the method of addition. The method of addition imposes certain tasks upon us. These tasks require that digits be added up from the units column through the tens column to the final column. And if these tasks are correctly performed, the correctness of the emergent total is guaranteed. The method of addition is thus seen to fulfill rationalism specifications or method. Is that okay, or you want the next bit read as well?
No, that's okay. I think we can expound our understanding in regards to that because we've been discussing the differences between rationalism and empiricism. But I remember in the last class, Brother Kwame, of course, almost touched in all these things generally without knowing what was trying, where we were. But I think we need to see how do we now understand the word rationalism, because here they're trying to explain what is rationalism. Then the next paragraph will now be understanding what is empiricism. So,
okay.
So if maybe I'll start with Sister Maida, in regards to what Sister Ida's read in regards to rationalism, what can you actually expound further on that, or how do you understand that text? What's your thinking?
I think what he's trying to say here is that rationalism follows a specific set of procedures. And for me, to kind of put it in African context, the way I understand it, help me understand, is how, for example, we've been sold the procedures of democracy around voting. So we're told that if we follow or through colonialism, we're taught that if we do campaigns and then the voters will register for the elections, and then so while all that is going on, the candidates each try to sell us whatever promises they're going to fulfill for us, and then there's voting, and then the votes are counted free and fair. But you know, that's a procedure or a set of tasks that we follow every 4 or 5 years, depending on whatever constitution it is. And yeah, so there's that's a method. That's for me in the African context, that's a method that is followed. So there's a set of tasks followed, and we're told that it is logical and that it gives us amazing results.
Okay, Sister Mayra, just on that point, as you're trying to compare it with democracy in Africa, I'd like to ask you, because it says that according to the former, a set of procedures or tasks can constitute a method of obtaining knowledge, only if provided the task have been correctly performed. Do you think, for example, when you talk of democracy in Africa, we have read the tenets of democracy and how democracy should be perfect. Do you think that as it insists method, if the tasks are correctly performed, do you think we are correctly performing the democratical procedures in order for us to attain what is the fruit of democracy? Or what do you think about that?
I think the tasks are often not performed correctly, because again and again we hear stories about election rigging and violence and all that, for example, in my country. But then I would also question if really one person who's supposedly been elected can represent a whole country that has such diverse peoples, and this person is supposed to have the final decision that affects this whole diverse groups of different people, maybe with even different needs. So even if the procedures were correctly performed, is it really representative? Is it truly democratic as it was sold, or as it is sold? Is how I would answer that. I would answer that with a question as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that, because it's very important that I'm gaining something here, that the most important thing to arrive at a conclusion according to rationalism, to arrive at a knowledge or an idea, will be based on the actions towards that. How do you perform the requirement to obtain that? It means that rationalism can be compromised by the methodology for attaining that. It's something that I'm just trying to get, but let me take to Sister Ida. Sister Ida, what's your thinking?
My thinking reminds me of what we were talking about at the beginning, about the person who wasn't a proper lawyer but was winning cases. Because in law, or up until recently that we know of, you had to go through certain training and learn things rationally in order to proceed on. So to me, rationalism is about something that is, step by step. It goes a certain way, and then you have outcomes from it. So at least that's how I was thinking when the bit about rationalism. So in a way, this is almost irrational that this person has succeeded, but he's gone through the steps that the rest would have accepted and thought he had gone through, and therefore accepted him till they found out no, he hadn't gone through those steps. So to me, I think that's what excuse me, that's what I see as rationalism. People go through steps, and that they achieve things at the end of the steps, or at least that's how society expects things to happen.
Thank you for that. I wanted to also bring it. Thanks that you pointed out to that story of that young man. So does it mean that rationality is strict on methodology, and they tend to assume that it's only until you add this plus this in order to get that? And that, for example, that it's only applicable that you must go through a law school for 7 years in order to be a lawyer. They don't take into account that it is possible that you be a lawyer without going through the process. So rationality maybe is very keen on the methods, that it cannot happen unless this and this is followed up to this direction. Is that what you think also?
I think so. I think I'm also saying that people don't think you could just use common sense with rationalism. You know, it's accepted because of the steps people have gone through.
Okay, thank you for that. Because there's an aspect where it says that the tax required that digits be added up from unit column through the tens to the final column. And if these tags are correctly performed, the correctness of a margin total is correct. So I think that's very important, because they say that if that correctness is not performed, you cannot get the correct activity. So let me go to Brother Mansa and let's hear what he's thinking. That's what we are trying to read here. Brother Tommy, you're welcome. I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Brother Mansa?
Thank you.
Brother Mansa, are you able to speak? Brother Obusu Mansa, are you able to speak? If not, I know Brother Coco is on a transit. Brother Coco, are you able to speak? But I think you're still on a transit. Okay. As we wait for the other members to indicate whether they're able to speak, let me give my thinkings before I take it back to Brother Komi. Because Sister Ida's shared her thinking, Myra's shared her thinking, Brother Coco is on transit, and Brother Myers is here, but I don't know if he can be able to speak. So let me also share my little thinking. Because I think in this paragraph of rationalism, they are trying to say that rationalism is based on a set procedure and principles. You are rational in regards to that. But there's also an aspect here that it says that the method of obtaining the knowledge must be as prescribed. For example, if they say that in order to get 2, you must add 1 plus 1 to get 2. If in case you do 3 minus 1 to get 2, I don't know if they accept that. It's like there's a set procedure of mind. But for example, they say that the government cannot succeed, or Africa cannot succeed until they do this. If they don't do this, they cannot get this. Or maybe, as they say, until people come out to vote, if you don't vote, you cannot get the right leader. And your votes must be done in a proper way. You must do it as required, you see. And this also takes us to the question Sister Mara was saying to my thinking, democracy. I think the concept of democracy now, as you're saying in the context of Africa, might not be wrong. But the procedures and the method we are trying to use in order to achieve that democracy might be an issue. And the rationalists, or rationalism, they say that the method must be perfect to actually attain anything. They don't believe that the end justifies the means. They are so keen on the means to produce the end. And I'm also trying to read something here that it says that if the tasks are correctly performed, the correctness of the margin total is guaranteed. The method of addition is thus seen to be fulfilling rationalism specifications for method. So I think this is how I'm trying to view it, that rationalism is based on purely like practicals or methods. This must be done for other things to come out. So this must be done, and then you add this to get this. They don't believe in this other shortcut we are seeing where a young man in Kenya who never went to law school can go and present cases in court pretending to be a lawyer and win 26 cases. Rationalism will believe that is impossible unless the young man goes to a law school for 7 years, then they can be a lawyer. And the same way we have all over, it's like it doesn't take consideration of the talents and skills, where somebody can make an aeroplane and they didn't go for any engineering school. Somebody can drive and they never went for driving school. And that's what I'm trying to think about it. But let me also give Brother Kwame to share with us more of rationalism. We're in the second paragraph, second last paragraph, saying the rationalism and empiricism. So I know you talked of this last time. You touched on it a bit. It's like you are so general. You didn't know where we were last time, but you touched on the addition method. But maybe you can expand it for us, Brother Kwame, in regards to what is your thinking to this. Brother Kwame?
Yes, Brother Pigeon, just so you know, I don't know if you can hear me okay. Your sound is going up and down, so it's not stable, just so you know. It's as if you are speaking into the mic and then you are not speaking to the mic. But that's just for you to know what's going on. So I think, I think I haven't heard what Sister Ida and Sister Mara said, but I've listened to you. And yes, rationalism. So rationalism is a method. It's a scientific method for obtaining knowledge. Empiricism is also a scientific method for obtaining knowledge. And Africans, as we are, must consider these methods in terms of knowledge. And so if we ask ourselves what knowledge should we use to advance Africa? Well, the answer is that we must use rationalism and empiricism. The question is, what is rationalism? Rationalism, if you want to put it basically, is the use of reason. Is the use of reason things out. And so Nkrumah used the example of mathematics. Incidentally, the only subject, scientific subject where you can prove things is mathematics. Mathematics has proofs. But in the social sciences, even in the natural sciences, it's not regarded as proof. It's just seen as knowledge, tentative knowledge, until we have a better explanation. This explanation that we hold on to as counts. So rationalism basically is that we should use our reasoning, and reasoning is the way logic, and the problem is that the problem is that you can reason correctly and you can reason incorrectly. So to reason correctly, you have to follow rules and so on. So for example, the method of addition that Nkrumah uses very simple. If you want to get the sum of two numbers, you must add the first number to the second number, arrive at the answer. So if you use the place value, if you have 10 units plus 1, then it's 11 units. So that's a method. And if you use that method of addition, or maybe subtraction or division or multiplication, usually you arrive at an answer. And the point is that if you arrive at an answer, that answer could be wrong or it could be right. But the answer was only right if you have followed the procedures correctly. So it's possible that you're using a rationalist method, but the procedure that you have used is not correct. And so you added 10 and 1 and you've got 12. But you may think you follow the procedure, you've got 12. But 10 plus 1 is not 12, it's 11. So that does happen. So that's just a very simple example. An empiricist method basically is the idea that we get knowledge from experience as the basis. The only way you can arrive at knowledge is through experience. So experience is the basis for knowledge. And so that's that. And so we Africans have to ask ourselves, what Nkrumah is asking us to ask ourselves is, how are we going to arrive at the kind of knowledge we need to advance Africa? Is it going to be rationalism or empiricism? And the answer is both. The answer is both, because we need a scientific method and we also need the rationalist method. Just if you can just scroll up for me, brother Pigeon. Can you scroll up for me? Let's see. Just to make sure I have covered everything. Yeah. So I overheard you using the example of voting, the democratic voting method, where people cast their ballots and you count them, and you arrive at the conclusion whether A has won the election, whether B has won the election. And again, it may sound rationalist, but if the procedure is flawed, then the result is not valid. So if somebody hacks into the system and changes the figures in there, then the procedure has not been followed, and therefore the result is not valid. So one of the reasons why some contestants take the Electoral Commission to court is to say that the electoral procedure has not been followed as laid down in law. So mathematics is like saying that you added 1 plus 10 and then you claim it was 20, whereas it's not 20. So then the question is, can we have an electoral method that is valid, that can be, if you like, that can be so designed that it doesn't allow for anyone to tamper with it? And the answer is yes, it can be done. Those who should make sure it's done are the very people who have an interest in it not being done properly. So here it doesn't matter whether the person is a candidate or a supporter. Sometimes the supporters are worse than the candidate himself or herself. The supporters sometimes who are the people who tamper with the procedures. But the answer is yes, it can be done. The difference between the electoral process and mathematics is that if you go and add 1 and 1 and come and tell us it is 5, you can tell us 5 because that is how you did this, you did that, but nobody's going to believe you. Nobody's going to believe you that you got 5. That if you add 1 and 1, you get 5. And you cannot legislate and say from today 1 to 1 is 5 because I am the king or I am the president, I say so. People will just disregard you. So yeah. So thank you for that. So that's all I can say about that. That rationalism is that we use our reason and logic. Empiricism is we use experience. But the empirical method itself also can be invalid. So just because you went out there and saw a black river and saw a river that was black, every river you saw for the last million years or for the last 1 million sightings were all black rivers, does not follow that the next river you will see will also be black. So just because experience has told you that this and that is this, does not follow that in the future, what you experienced yesterday will be the same as tomorrow. So the empirical method itself is not always valid. It can be invalid because it is not guaranteed. It's not a guarantee that the past, because you see the empirical method, which is experience, assumes that the structure of the universe yesterday will be the same as tomorrow. But who says the sun will shine tomorrow? I mean, how do we know that the sun will shine tomorrow? Just because the sun has shone for the last million years when we've been on this planet, does not mean that in the next 1 million years the sun will shine again. And if the sun doesn't shine, we'll all die. You understand? But you can't assume that the sun has shone in the past, so it will shine again. It doesn't follow. The dinosaurs were on this planet for how many years? Dinosaurs roamed the earth. They were the kings and the queens. Human beings were nowhere to be seen. The mammals were just nobody. I mean, these animals were huge. They had long necks, big bodies. Some of them, their step alone shook the ground. But where are they all now? They disappeared. And why did they disappear? Because we are told that some kind of object hit the earth and caused their death. And then because they died, mammals like us were able then to come out of our holes and then begin to walk on the earth. Because now the dinosaurs were gone, we were now able to walk on the earth. And then in the course of time, we have now got to a point where we think that we can do anything we like. But who says that some kind of comet or some kind of stray planet will not hit the Earth and cause the disappearance of man? I mean, there's a passage in the Bible. Those who read the Bible, that is not that I'm a believer in the Bible, but there's a passage that the Earth is going to be by the um, the 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 world ended through a flood. This time to be by fire. That is what the Bible says. That it's going to be by fire, not by water anymore, not by flood anymore. Now, whether it is true or not, I'm not saying it is or it isn't. But the point I'm making is that who is to say that we can guarantee that there won't be some kind of conflagration? So I'm pointing out the fact that the empirical method, empiricism, has also limitations. Just because the white man has ruled Africa for the last 500 or so years doesn't mean that the white man can continue to rule Africa forever. Just because America is a powerful country today doesn't mean America will be a powerful country in 500 years' time. We tend to sometimes allow ourselves to be over impressed with the present, and we think because something is presently the case or was the case in the past, somehow it will continue. Where is Babylon today? Where is Babylon? Where are all these great civilizations, including African civilizations, the Ghana Empire, the Songhai Empire, the Zimbabwe Empire? Where are they? And they've come and gone. So there is no guarantee that just because something is happening yesterday or happened yesterday, that it will continue into the future. And this is why we Africans have to be confident in ourselves, because nature itself is telling us that supremacy is not guaranteed. Some people look at the white people and they think that, oh, these people are so powerful, and some people just cannot see the end of white rule. It's like being a citizen in apartheid South Africa, where the National Party was supreme and the government was white, and ministers were white, and you cannot see that it's possible for the black man to run South Africa, because you can't see it because you are kind of in that bubble called South Africa, where you've been told that, you are nothing, you are nobody, you are an animal, you are a human being, and you are and so on, and all this propaganda and lies. And then someone called Steve Biko comes along and says that, South Africa will have I'm fighting for a South Africa where there's one man, one vote. And it's so revolutionary, but in Ghana, where we had that for, I don't know, since 1951, for us it's not revolutionary, because we voted and got our first leader of government business, Kwame Nkrumah, and he became later the president in 1960. So for us, it's normal. But for someone, the idea that a black man can run South Africa, and those was like, this can happen. Are you sure this can happen? To give another example, when Marcus Garvey was talking about the fact that there will arise black nations. Because remember, during his time, there was no such thing as an African country. The African countries didn't exist. We did not exist as countries. We were just colonies on maps, on WAB maps dominated by Caucasians. And then Gavin started talking about the fact that he can foresee how there'll be a black country, a black nation with their own government, their own army. People like, Gavin, you are mad. How is that possible? It's not possible. It won't happen. When America was fighting for independence, you know, and people were telling the Americans that they were mad. This is the American Civil War where they were fighting for independence from the British. People said, no, it can't happen. All men are not equal. It's not true. You are deceiving yourself, and so on and so forth. So I'm just trying to say that empiricism has limitations, and that we should not be over impressed with the past and think that because in the past this and that happened, therefore in the future that is how it will be. And the reason we know that also is because we are dialecticians, aren't we? We are dialecticians. The forces of nature themselves are in contrast. There is positive forces and negative forces. These are clashing all the time. And sometimes when it seems that things are normal and cool and so on, suddenly, pam, something happens. Recently in Palestine, the security for the Israeli defense force, the Israeli defense force, IDF, they were asleep. They went to sleep because somehow they thought they had suppressed the Palestinians so much that nothing can happen, and they went to sleep. And then what happened? There was an event in Israel, and Hamas was able to infiltrate and take so many people hostages and kill people because the defense force were asleep. Why were they asleep? Because they looked at the scene and they thought, oh, everything is normal. We have not suppressed these people. They can't do anything. Hamas is weak. Hamas is that. You understand? And then that happened. And then suddenly, to prove that they were macho, they are not bombing indiscriminately, collective punishment, killing people here and there, and so on. So the point I'm making is that when you put water on fire, so when there's fire under the water, you may not see it boiling. It doesn't mean there's nothing happening in the water. Before you ready, bang, it starts to boil. And so on. I think I have spoken for too long. Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that. You've gone even an extra mile to explain to us the empiricism, which was to be our second part of our reading. And because you've done that, I'll just request Sister Ida to read that brief paragraph starting from the word according to empiricism. Then now we can discuss the last part of rationalism, because basically you've just touched in all these things as you did last time. But you really actually need to accompany them with the reading so that we can discuss out of the reading. So Sister Ida, if you can you proceed with the reading from the according to empiricism, even though Brother Kwame has said it, so that once the reading is done, we can be able now to cross-share our thinking again.
Okay. According to empiricism, however, a method need not guarantee its own infallible success. And one finds John Stuart Mill saying that is it induction? In induction, notwithstanding it's been a valid method of obtaining truth, is still fallible. For rationalism, valid but fallible procedure is a logical howler.
What does that mean? What did that sentence try to mean?
Yeah, it means that in rationalism, you cannot have a procedure that is invalid. You cannot have a procedure which, if you follow it correctly, will lead to an answer that is not valid. That's what it means. But with empiricism, you can arrive at an answer which can be invalid. So, for example, if you follow 1 + 1 and you do 1 + 1 means 1 unit plus 1 unit. If you add 1 into 1, you get 2. If you take away 1 unit from 1, you get 0. Now, as long as you are following that procedure, 1 + 1 is 2. There is no way if you fast forward the universe to 1,000,000 years from now, eh, there's no way that 1 + 1 will cease to be 2. If you go back into the past, as far back as you can go, there will never be a time in the past when 1 + 1 was never 2. So that is what it means, that the rationalism is valid not only for us today, is valid for the past, is valid for the future, is valid at all times. It can never be fallible. And by fallible means that it can be faulty, or it will not yield the correct answer.
So
But empiricism can it's a method, it's a valid method, but the result can be faulty. And I've given an example. That is that just because Caucasians were running the colonial government doesn't mean that they will run it forever. So yeah. And if you find a snake, in your yard every night, you go out, you see a snake. Tomorrow you go out, you see a snake. And then for the next 1 year you see a snake. Okay, you can say, well, if I go out on New Year, the following year, I will see a snake. But there's no guarantee you will see a snake. You see, there is no guarantee that on the 367th day, which is the new year of the following year, you can see a snake. Maybe the snake died. It died before the year ended. So that snake will not come again. Aha.
So can I ask,
So
is that
empiricism is
rationalism,
valid.
imperialism?
That is
Okay.
empiricism.
Okay.
So that's empiricism because it's experience. You are basing it on experience. You are saying that because I've experienced this, therefore I will experience it tomorrow. Yeah, because because I saw a man who gave me food every day for the next 5 years. Therefore, you are assuming that if you see the same man, he'll give you food. And what if he cuts off your head? What if he cuts off your head? How can you guarantee that the man will cut off your, not give you food, cut off your head? So just because a chicken is fed every day of the year, does not mean that on Christmas Day, when the owner comes into the pen, that he's coming to feed the chicken. Maybe he's coming to cut off his head for his family to have Christmas chicken. But the chicken will think that it's the owner has come to feed it. So the kitchen is happy. The chicken is happy. My owner has come in Christmas Day. My owner has come to feed me. But actually, he's come to cut off your head so that he can feed you. So he can feed you to his family.
I think what you're saying is making
summarize,
sense.
So to summarize, the empirical method is valid, but it is not fallible. But it's infallible.
Okay, thank you. What I wanted to say is that the way you're saying it, that maybe in African context, when we saw the white man coming with the Bible, we thought they could be good enough for us. But over a period of time, they never became good for us. And even up to date, some people see maybe some white man in the villages, and they think, yeah, this man is coming with the goodies, he's coming to give us or give us donation through NGO, they're going to help us. And as you're saying, not that it's always that it will be automatic that they'll help us. In politics in Africa, people will say, maybe because my tribesmate become a president or the leader, yes, they will work for our favor. But sometimes they don't work for your favor. It doesn't mean that them being your person will actually favor you. So I think you're trying to actually bring it to the context that it's always what fills our mind. We make decisions and our ideas based on that thinking, that rationale, that empiricism. That because it's my brother, he's going in there to help me get there. Because it's from our community, we will serve our community.
You see, Brother Pigeon, the example you have given is a good example for us to learn when to switch to rationalism and not empiricism. That's a very good reason. So Brother Mensah here and myself are Ghanaians. So because we are Ghanaians, when I see Brother Mensah, I feel a certain Ghanaianness with Brother Mensah. And so Brother Mensah is my brother, and so he's my Ghanaian brother. And so yeah, so I feel that. But if Brother Mensah now becomes the president of Ghana, and I think because he's my brother, he will look after me, and he doesn't, yeah, then I need to switch from empiricism to rationalism and do my rational calculations and see that this guy is not really interested in my welfare. So I think the example you have given is an example of where, as Africans, we have to be, yes, we have to be empirical, but we also have to take a rationalist view of things. And we know that rationalism will not fail, because if one plus 3 can never equal 5, then let's not deceive ourselves that 1 plus 3 will equal 5, because it will never equal 5. If the elites are in office to fill their pockets with money, you can love them all you like. They will not look after you. They will only look after themselves and their family. So we need to know when to switch from empiricism, like you're saying, oh, he belongs to my tribe. Oh, no, he's my family, and so on, and move to rationalism and start making rational calculations. Yeah.
I'll give the last example. Like the current president of Kenya said that he was a poor person. He was a hustler. He used the word hustler. And that because he was a hustler in 1980s, working on selling chickens, when he was campaigning in 2022, he told the poor people that I was a hustler like you. I'm a hustler like you. And the poor people believe that because he was one, or is maybe pretending to be one, when he gets in there, he's going to defend us. And what came out after that? He switched lines. In fact, he makes the poor suffer more than what they expected. And because also his community think that because he's a president, when he get in our community, we feed the same things. But today, everybody's suffering. There's no price for bread for this community or this other community. The price is the same. And even other people do say, in current context, that Africans have failed to manage themselves. It's better the white man could prolong his leadership in Africa to help us build Africa. But that does not make anything. They don't even know whether even during the white man system, Africa never developed. Africa suffered a lot. And the fact that some people have failed to develop African leadership today doesn't mean that the next generation could not do the same. So saying that because the black man is ruling you and he's failed, what shows you that you can win? And because the old man or a young man like you went for this position and failed, what shows you that you yourself will win? Yeah. So such are the thinkings.
I mean, yeah, right. I mean, just because our parents have been dominated did not mean that the children of South Africa could not rise. And if you look at the Soweto uprising, it was children. It was children. It was children in South Africa. The Soweto uprising was children that said, no, we don't like the way you are treating our parents. We don't like the way you are treating us. We don't like Bantu education. And they all united, whether they were Zulus, Xhosas, it doesn't matter, they all united. And they marched out. So you are right. Just because it is this way in the now or in the past, doesn't mean it will be the same tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you.
Sister Mayra, I'll request you to read for us the last part of rationalism, which says finally rationalism. So we will end our class there and share our thinking to that final part of rationalism. So Sister Mayra?
Finally, rationalism holds that there are some ideas in the human mind which are innate to it. That is to say, these ideas have not entered the mind from outside, and moreover could not do so. In practice, rationalists do not agree over the precise catalogue of such ideas, though they tend to agree that the idea of God is a shining example. But empiricism cannot countenance innate ideas. For it, all ideas without exception come to the mind from the external world, or are composed exclusively from ideas which come into the mind from the external world through the senses.
Thank you for that. The concept of outside is also coming here and inside. It's a very interesting conversation we had. It's very good to see the outside and inside playing again. And also the concept of the spirits in idealism and materialism is coming in. But generally, Sister Myra, having read this, what is your thinking in regards to that text that you read?
I think here what he's trying to say is that for rationalists, so I think it's saying a huge aspect of rationalism is logic, which comes from our thoughts or logical thoughts. So they say they haven't, they've come from the person is thinking rationally, the person is thinking logically, right? And then here it says, in practice, rationalists do not agree over though they tend to agree that the idea of God is a shining example. So I guess here I think that because God is, the rationalists see God as an idea that is outside. There are no steps or procedures to prove that God exists. So for them, that's an outside idea. So I think we're saying that they see that as being irrational, as an idea that comes from outside. So I'm reading that. But empiricism cannot contain innate ideas. While empiricism, on the other hand, accepts that there are some that the ideas that come from outside the world, for example, observation, experiments through the senses. So this is saying, I think it's pointing out a difference between where the source of ideas in rationalism, where it says rationalism comes from our logical thinking, while for empiricism, these ideas come from what we see outside of us, what we observe from outside of us. That's why I understand it.
Thank you for that sharing. Before I take it to Sister Ida, I'll give a funny example. Maybe to empiricism, they believe that by practicing the baptism, you dip yourself into water, you'll get saved again and your sins are all forgiven. But rationalism either tend to believe that you must actually answer to that whatever offense that you did, either by asking for apology or something like that. But empiricism believe that it's outside cleansing for anything you do. So there's an outside control. For example, if you fail to attain something, for example, you fail to attain the pass mark in a class for where you are studying in a school. If you tend to succeed or get an A in mathematics, empiricism maybe tend to believe that if you pray somewhere and kneel down and believe in that, then if you believe in that prayer, you can be number one or you can attain that A. But rationalism, no, you cannot do that. Just go back, do your study, follow the procedure, read and master the content, then you can get that A. But the empiricism will believe, no, you can still put hard work in prayers, in believing and whatever. Then if you believe, you can be number one. So that's a fun example. But let me hear what Sister Ida is thinking. Sister Ida?
I think that imperialism is the opposite, that all ideas come from outside, whereas I think
it's empiricism, not imperialism.
Imperialist.
No, empiricism.
Empiricism. Oh dear. Empiricism. Yeah. Okay. The imperialism comes from outside, and I think the rationalism they believe comes from within. I think that's what it's saying. That people can have rational thoughts and things are okay, like it can come from within their thoughts, whereas that word imperialism is external. It has external ideas. I think that's what it's I've heard.
Let's hear what Brother Kwame
external
said.
word.
But let me hear what Brother Obosu. Are you able to speak, Brother Obosu? Obosu Mensa. I know you said you are here to get the class and understand, but are you able to say something? Because you've listened to something for some time now.
He's eating, brother.
Okay. So Brother John Opoku, we are almost ending. You can connect your microphone if you wish to share something. Brother Kwame?
Yeah. So yeah, no, thank you. So let's go back to the beginning when human beings arrived on this planet. When we first arrived on this planet. So the planet was here before we came. We couldn't have been here before the planet. That's logically impossible. So that is, if you like, rationalism. It's not possible for you to be on an earth, for you to be here before the earth came. The earth has to be here before you come. And since everything that you are, in other words, the matter of which you are composed, hydrogen, oxygen, and all the other, carbon and all the things you are composed of. Since all of them are on this planet, it stands to reason that you came out of the earth. Now the question then is, all the ideas that we have, is it from outside us? Is it from the universe to which we came? Are the ideas from the world into which we came? And that's what it means. When we say the external world, we mean the world that we came to meet. That's the external world. Wherever we were, whether we were in the ground or in the air, wherever we were before we came out and became breathing human beings, wherever we were, the world is our external world. So the question is, the ideas in your head, where did they come from? Did they come from the world into which we came, or the world in which we exist? Or were we born with the ideas? Do you think that before we arrived on this planet, we had all these ideas before we arrived? Or do you think that the ideas came to us as we interacted with the universe? So there are those who believe that the ideas that we have are innate. In other words, we are born with it. And if I take the example of mathematics, there are some people who believe that children are born very clever. They are born. We say they are talented. We say they are gifted. They are gifted children. So they are born, and somehow these children can do calculations that even adults can do. And they are just gifted. They can do. So, they are so quick. They can understand mathematical ideas and do calculations, and even adults are mesmerized. And so then the question then is, these gifted children, surely they must have been born with it. It must be innate. They couldn't have learned it in the world. They must have been born with it. And so that is one idea. So those who believe in that are, if you like, those who are called the rationalists. And then you have the other side who are saying, well, however gifted the child is, the child got it from outside the child. So maybe when the child was in the mother's womb, that's where the child got it from, or it was in it was outside. The parents may have passed it on genetically. Therefore, it is not that innate. It still came from outside. And where did the parents themselves get that genetic material from? Well, they got it from their parents, and their parents from their parents. So however far back you go, covers the same question. Now, there's another example in the Akan language that says that which basically means that if you want to speak to God, speak to the wind. Another one says, you don't teach a child God. And that is the idea that it is innate, that we are born with it. It's inside us. So you don't need to teach a child God. So that God could be symbolic, could mean for things that we know that didn't come from outside the world, but that we were born with it. So yeah, so there are these contending ideas, and who is right and who is wrong? Well, it's a scientific position, and yeah, we just have to pick. We just have to, yeah, you just have to make up your mind which one works for you. So we Africans have to decide, which one will work for us, because it's hard to prove that things are not innate, and it's hard to prove that everything is from outside. Hard to prove, and the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because the evidence is not there doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just means you haven't found the method to find the evidence yet.
Thank you so much for that. And I think there's a good landing for us to actually still think about this, whether you believe it is innate or is external or is from outside. And I think we need to really think along this throughout this week. And as we come back to our next class next week, we'll still also be expanding out on this, as we've seen, and we're moving to idealism on space and everything else. So I'm looking for an interesting class, because like what we started with in the first paragraph of this chapter on philosophy and retrospect is now coming to be explained fully as we move along. The two positions that we introduced merely with buttons and tails is now coming out clearly as Nkome is trying not to stress on them in order for us to understand. And as I can say, it's a nice ending. This ending is like connecting the past to the end and make it now perfectly all along. So thank you very much for attending our class today. And this marks our end for this class today. And we look forward to have another class to continue our reading next Thursday. And don't forget about our Saturday class this coming Saturday, 1900 UK time or London time. So without any further say, I'd like to appreciate your presence and say that our meeting has come to an end. Unless Brother Kwame, you have something to say?
No, I'm all right. Thank you. You said it all. Admit yourself, brother.